This is the Benefits Buzz Podcast, your weekly pulse on what's happening in the world of employee benefits. Brought to you by your friends at WEX, who believe in simplifying benefits for everyone. Now listen up and let's get buzzed. Hey everyone, welcome to another episode of Benefits Buzz. I'm your host, Eric Pill. I'm joined by my co-host, Kelsey Berg. I miss saying Kelsey Berg so much, Kelsey.
I knew it was going to come up again. Yes, I'm back from maternity leave. You can say my name like I'm walking out onto a basketball court again.
It's true. I've missed it a lot. I'm excited you're back. We've got a great series for rocking and rolling with, which I love. And this is kind of our open enrollment series. And we're talking about limited FSAs because if benefits aren't complex enough, we've got FSAs, dependent care FSAs, and limited FSAs. And so we want to make sure it's super crystal clear. That's the point of this podcast, is make sure you feel really good about what a limited FSA is. And did you know you can pair it with an HSA? And so we're going to dive into what that all means. We have a great guest, Mike Hagen. Welcome to the show. Mike, you are on our sales team here. We rarely let salespeople on our call, Mike. But we're so excited to have you because no one knows limited FSAs like you do, sir. Welcome to the podcast.
Thanks for having me. Glad to be here.
Well, we're excited you are here. So let's dive into this. Let's share. We would love to know a bit about you. I want to dive into FSA, but let's talk about you a little bit, Mike. Let's have our listeners get to know you. Tell us about your experience and a little bit why you're passionate about limited FSAs.
Well, I've been in the industry for over a decade, and admittedly, prior to that, had worked at some employers that had offered, FSAs, HSAs, limited FSAs, but there wasn't a lot of education that came with it, so it didn't really do anything as far as enrollment and how it could impact our family. And so it's been really fun to see some of the impact that has been made by being enrolled for over 10 years, and excited to share some of that today.
I love it. All right, enough about you, Mike. Let's get to FSA. Limited FSAs. Tell us, give us some of the basics on a limited FSA.
Sure. A lot of people have heard of, an FSA or full FSA, medical FSA, a few different terms that you'll see in the industry there. Not very many are well-versed or understand that there is a limited FSA option that's out there that, as you mentioned, can be paired with an HSA. So the easiest way to think about it is really going back to that word limited. So if we would compare what is the difference between a full medical FSA and a limited FSA, it really comes down to some of the eligible expenses. So a medical FSA includes dental, vision, as well as some of those out-of-pocket medical expenses. And a limited FSA is just that. It's limited to the dental and vision. So it pairs very well with an HSA for those that are enrolled in a high deductible plan. You can still get some of those great tax advantages by contributing to those throughout the year.
So you mentioned that you've been enrolled for 10 years, which is, wow, good for you, enrolled in a limited for 10 years. Can you tell us a little bit about how you use your limited FSA compared to how you use your HSA, since they do pair so well together?
Yeah. Admittedly, I really look at what we can do to contribute to the HSA and to do what we can to try to contribute as many dollars into the HSA, while at the same time looking for any anticipated dental, vision, upcoming expenses that I can then contribute towards the limited FSA. Obviously, have some great tax advantages there, and so it's really a kind of an annual type of decision that we make, throughout the whole open enrollment time period for our family. But making sure that when we do know some of those expenses that are upcoming that fall into the eligible reimbursement range there, that we contribute to the limited and take advantage of some of the tax benefits.
Yeah, that's such an interesting piece about it. Is there any other advice? I think it's usually like, oh, you can pair those two, because people are used to hearing you can't have both, but with limited you can. Is any other advice about how you choose? You talked about you kind of make a decision. Any other advice about using both of them and when to turn to each, or how to pair them the most effectively?
Well, there's going to be, every individual and family is a bit different in terms of budgeting and dollars that are available to contribute to one or both of those. But if you look at the real benefits of an HSA are both in the short term as well as the long term future for those dollars to grow. So if you have the capacity to be able to contribute into both of those accounts, the HSA and the limited FSA, you have options to be able to let one account grow and really set you up for some long-term success while still having the ability to save on those expenses that you have within the short term or within that specific plan year. And so, there's not really a blanket statement that is going to be perfect for everybody,
Sure.
but each family is going to be able to make a decision. Each individual is going to be able to make those decisions and really take advantage of the tax benefits that come with those products.
Let's talk a little bit about what expenses you spend your limited FSA dollars on. Like, I know me, I spend mine on contacts or glasses. Like, those are my big two expenses. So that's how I choose how much to contribute to mine. What about you and your family? What are you spending your limited FSA on when you've had one for so long?
Sure. Well, very recently, 2 teenage daughters that have had quite a bit of orthodontia work. And so that's been a nice opportunity to be able to see some of the tax advantages there. Over the course of time, it's varied for some of those dental and some vision. My wife wears contacts, my daughter contacts and glasses as well. And so those really fit in that. Personally, a few years ago, I had a LASIK procedure, and that was just, tremendous to be able to see the opportunity to use that limited FSA towards the cost of services there. And so, throughout 10 years, we've had many different expenses that have been able to see some nice benefits of being able to be enrolled within that limited FSA.
Yeah, that's, I'm sure that I was surprised about the LASIK, so that's great. And you gave some other good examples of great ways, because I feel I'm literally, when you said orthodontia, I just had one of my little ones have it, and I don't have a limited FSA. I'm like, dang it, I just missed on some tax saving dollars. So people who are listening, don't make the same mistake that I did. But I'm sure my next one will use them, so I'll make sure and prepare for next time. But
on top of it, are braces even a thing anymore, or is it the Invisalign now? You know what I mean? And I'm sure that's more expensive than the braces we had.
Yeah, it's just another upcharge. Exactly. Well, it's like phase 1 of orthodontia, and then it's like, oh, well, we're preparing for phase 2 when they get to junior high and middle school. So I don't know. Sorry, that's a whole other podcast on the orthodontia racket. But there's tons of opportunities to put money in your limited FSA to help pay for it. One of the things I wanted to talk about as well was, again, a substantiation, right? So I would love to hear about because everyone's like, oh, substantiation. So I'd love to hear about your experience with that. Is it something you find cumbersome? Has it been easy? Or how does that work?
Well, it's been easy, almost too easy when you think of how far technology has come in the reimbursement of projects. A specific example would be when I had LASIK. So you pay for the services at the time of the procedure, and you walk out of there with a nice receipt and some medicine to make you sleep for a few hours. But then I woke up the next day, and I have the mobile app, and so I was able to just take a picture of that and submit that within probably less than 2 minutes. So if you think about the opportunity to be able to enroll and take advantage of some of the tax breaks there, but how easy it is on the back end when you do want to submit for reimbursement there. The mobile app's fantastic. There's other options with technology as well, or people are really old school, but I've found that the opportunity to pull that phone out of the pocket, we all have our phones in our pockets nowadays, take a picture of that, stress-free, you're done with it. That really was just a nice advantage and really a very stress-free and easy way to go about that process. And you could do that for many different, it doesn't have to be just LASIK, obviously, but you could be walking out of the clinic and take a picture of that receipt or EOB there. And so it's come a long way in just making sure it's really easy for people to access that technology and then easy to use, in that moment there.
You heard it first. You heard stress-free and substantiation in the same sentence. I love it, Mike.
We talk a lot about savings, and I've heard you say a few times that you're saving on taxes, and I think we use that in the industry as a blanket term a lot. You're saving with an FSA, and I'm putting you on the spot a little bit here, but as someone who has 2 daughters, if you've used it on family expenses, you've used it for yourself, do you have any sort of idea of how much you have saved as a family by using the limited FSA for those expenses versus just paying out of pocket?
Well, you mean hundreds of dollars? Over the course of a decade or so, it's probably well into the thousands. And that's one of the areas that we're all trying to help people understand how they can benefit. But admittedly, it's pretty hard when you go through open enrollment to continue to check boxes that will take money out of your paycheck. None of us like doing that. But if you think about it, you're essentially signing up for a coupon to be able to receive those services at a discount. Now, it's a delayed satisfaction, but it is that discount that you receive when you go and file your taxes there. But that's a mindset that's hard for people to get over. But once you do and you start to see some of those tangible benefits, it really does give you some confidence that you've made some good decisions by signing up for those reimbursement accounts. So everybody's going to be different as far as the volume of expenses, but it certainly adds up over time and is a nice amount that stays within your checking account or savings account by taking a few minutes to sign up.
Well, and I don't know about you, but when I do go get glasses or contacts, I mean, contacts aren't cheap anymore, and I go swipe my card, it feels a little good that I know it's coming out of an account that I basically never look at versus my checking account. You know what I mean? So there's some satisfaction there too.
Yeah. You talked about like a decade worth of limited FSA experience. So I'm going to try to dive into that a bit more, Mike. You gave a couple examples. It sounds like you're not only using your FSA for yourself, Mike, but you're using it for your family, correct?
Correct. Absolutely.
Okay. So that's an important piece for listeners. And then secondly, you gave a couple examples, but whether it's something that you've experienced as a family using your limited FSA, what are some other reasons? We've seen orthodontia, we've seen, vision. Is there any other examples you give that we could use those limited FSA dollars on so that it's really crystal clear for those listeners?
There's a lot. And we get that question, quite often, is there a comprehensive list? I mean, you can go through Google and type in items as well. Most commonly, where we've seen that, contacts are a big one. And nowadays, if you go into a vision provider, they're even going to ask you, do you want a receipt for, FSA, HSA, et cetera. But contacts, glasses, just, some normal dental checkups that come with expenses there, that things aren't covered by insurance. There are many that are on the periphery there, but those would be the very, very common ones. And then obviously for people that, LASIK or some of those procedures that fall within the realm of eligibility as well, that can add up to hundreds or even into the thousands. That's where you're really going to start to see those tax advantages start to add up in a hurry. So exploring, I've been considering this type of procedure, or even on the back end, hey, we've had this, and you receive that invoice in the mail to be able to look into whether it is eligible or not and submit for reimbursement. So there's quite a large list there. And that's the awareness that's really important for people to have. Is very, very few individuals or families aren't going to have something over the course of a year that falls within that. So if it's small, if it's large, you can certainly take advantage of a few extra dollars, staying in your pocket.
So it sounds like you're using your limited FSA for more short-term needs or things like that are coming up that you can anticipate. Does that alleviate you from using your HSA, since they do pair together for those needs, and then you just allow that to save and build up? Or how are you looking at that strategically from a financial perspective? It
certainly has. It certainly, with the anticipated expenses or planning for those, like I did with LASIK there are inevitably times where something unexpected comes up. And you have that safety net because we've been able to contribute to the HSA and allow it to grow over time, to be able to have that confidence to say, okay, if we want to use these dollars, they are there. And so they complement each other very, very well for both the short-term or some of the planned expenses, as well as the unexpected, in being able to receive similar tax advantages there, regardless of when and what type of expenses come up. And so there's a lot that goes into just having that confidence and putting your head down at night on your pillow and saying, okay, if something unexpected happens, we're covered. And that does take a little bit of time, but it is certainly a nice benefit that accumulates over the course of being enrolled in these benefits.
Yeah, that's fantastic. Like, that's the first thing I thought of. And again, everyone can use these differently, but I love that idea of using FSA for those predictable short-term spends. And then we literally just did a podcast episode about, an emergency medical, right, thing that's completely unexpected, comes out of the blue, and to know you've got your HSA dollars to make sure that can cover some of those things. So I love that. Again, everyone will have their own strategy. Maybe to wrap, Mike, any last tips or thoughts around it? And even like guilty myself, what are some of the limitations? Why aren't people using limited FSAs more? Is it education? Is it just that understanding that how each are used? What have you seen in your experience?
Well, I would say personally myself, but also just feedback that I've seen over the course of working within this industry. A couple things come to mind. The first, as I mentioned, was the awareness of just understanding what, and meaning what is eligible that myself or my family has as expenses, whether it's going to the dentist or whether it's, the orthodontia or vision. We inevitably do have those expenses, but it is truly creating awareness that there is a limited FSA option out there, and not everybody gets the same level of that education. But that's the first step. And then I would say the second step, as we talked about recently, was getting the mindset of contributing within that open enrollment or enrolling in the limited FSA and contributing paycheck to paycheck will give you the opportunity to spend those dollars throughout that plan year. And anytime we, adapt our budgeting or the benefits we enroll in, there's a change that we have to be comfortable with. But once you do and see the benefits of having those dollars available for when those expenses come up, it's pretty significant, the advantages that you can receive, and then just the confidence that you can have. And so awareness, and then embracing the mindset to say, I'm going to add this to the benefits I'm enrolled in and start to see those advantages compound over time. So there's an opportunity for us all out there to help people understand. And then once you start using it, that confidence really starts to grow.
Yeah, that's great. I love the final advice, and I took away something. I hope our listeners did as well. Such really good, I think, just thought process in terms of understanding how this benefit can really work for you and how it compare with an HSA if that happens to be something you're already enrolled in. So a lot of great nuggets. I don't know what else to call them, but truth bombs, whatever cool call we want to call them. You laid them down, Mike. It was a fantastic episode. Thank you so much for sharing your expertise, and we appreciate you coming on the podcast, sir.
You're welcome. Thanks for having me.
WEX is in the business of simplifying benefits for everyone. Now, although we certainly hope our podcast sparks some aha moments, like that was pretty cool, but of course we cannot provide legal, investment, or financial advice. And, well, therefore, nothing shared in this podcast should be interpreted as such. We encourage you to seek out appropriate professional advice regarding your plans. Hey, congratulations! You made it through our disclaimer. Thanks for listening.